Hello there, for those who are watching. The Angry fan here, the semi-retired despair reviewer, here with the Eden Zero Chapter 91. And let's just say this has really begin to get mysterious as we now find out, we don't really find out, but we find out sort of that the reason why Drakken was called Undead Jaw is because of the fact that he hasn't aged over the 50 years that has gone on. And apparently, he may not even have aged for 200 years. Yes, it is what I suspected. Drakenjo is a homunculus, or something like that. But that is not the only thing that happens in this chapter of Eden 091. First off, the next Pinot analysis is actually herself. She likes her master, Chiki, and dislikes bullies, and has no ether gear but an EMP. She has a 1 star in attack, a 1 star defense, a 1 star in marksmanship, a 2 in ether power, a 4 in intelligence, and a 3 in rabbit. She acknowledges that she doesn't remember memories though. But what we see in this fight is also a little bit of Homura versus Sylph, as Homura now with a new confidence and a new skill manages to cleave the wind as much as possible. So Sylph shows another ability of her wind, which gathers a lot of the different things around her and then uh, throws it all down at Homura, who evades it and jumps into a building. Ironically, the same building where she previously lost the fight against Sylph. What makes this even more ironic is that this time it is Sylph that is on the pole dancing. Also, Sibir has got the gang to an unknown location as they have freed Lavia and saying that this is no cameras in this room. Of course, Pino is afraid of Sibir. This is not the time where he had time to apologize, and so is Shiki. But Wise is okay for meeting him. But it turns out that this Sibir and no, old Sibir and old Wise have actually patched up the differences. But ironically, their falling out did indeed happen 50 years ago, the same timeline when Sh- Shiki and Gang, well, the stirred thing is even something of uh, even of the fact that Sibir has watched the news in the Belia Goel and somehow saw young Wise there. He put two and two together, that's why he wanted to help them. So he reveals that the we do not find out exactly why Sibir and Wise of old had a fallen out. He says it was a minor disagreement. However, Wise, despite not being so bothered in seeing old Sibir, said a minor disagreement, which suggests that it was bigger than anything else. And it's also connected to the case that Wise took those years ago. In the new history, that case had Pino in it. However, in the real lifetime, that case did indeed have money that belonged to DJ Zombie, someone who actually young Wise know who it is, meaning that that's how he heard the name before. And apparently, DJ Zombie was a loan shark and the fixer of the gang, and all the other punks in town, and his name was terrifying, and no one really wanted to cross him. But the otherwise did that because he didn't know that that money belonged to DJ Zombie, and his punishment cut his arm off. Yes, that DJ Zombie was none other than Draken Yo, as which fits in the timeline that in the defeated timeline, um, the uh, Drakenjo's minion cut off Wise arm again, meaning that that was a symbolization that he would always cut off his arm. Wonder if he will lose it again against in this rematch. Cutting off their arm is an ancient punishment of stealing, after all. So that was the time when Weiss dropped his criminal ways, went to school, and eventually became known as the professor, and also got that artificial arm. After that, DJ Zombie Drakenjo became successful at Gills and turned it into the monster hive it was all those years ago. But no one really knows why Drakenjo hasn't aged over 50 years. Even the fact that Sibir himself had mentioned that he may even be over 200 years old. That's why they call him Drakenjo Zombie. So Rebecca begins to put two and two together and wondering that if maybe that is the true reason on why Drakenjo wanted her power. Her power allows her to go back in time with her memories intact, or at least sort of. So in that way you can say that her body is younger. And as we know, Drakenjo can take another ether gear. Maybe maybe he wanted to take Rebecca's power and with a little twist use that to make himself younger because Rebecca asks the gang that maybe he is alive and unaging, but maybe he won't be able to do that much longer. Yes, there may even be that may be his weakness, a desperation to keep himself young. Either way, back to the fight of Homer and Sylph. Sylph, who I think reveals that the name of her ether gear is Wind Snatch, begins to catch in Homura, but then Homura shows one of the very big badass moments as she combines the sword into something like this and dances around, creates a different wind that even that manages to snatch off the wind snatch. What makes this even more um, symbolist, I mean, amazing sort of thing is that this actually shocks Sylph. She was only briefly shocked in the previous timeline when Rebecca's ether gears ether gear activated, but here she is truly in fear as she mentions that if I lose, Drakkenjo will absorb me. So that's basically this chapter. Some nice background we got on Drakkenjo, although we still don't know exactly what his story is, but we'll probably never really find out. But if it's true that Drakkenjo really is not aging as much as we think, then uh, and is reaching his limit, then it may very well be that he used his ancient alchemy to do that. But he got his start on that planet. But I wondered that did that old Joe exist in the timeline of when Shiki and Gang were there? Hmm, I'm not sure. But also it's the fact that Sylph showed fear there, true horrified fear, and absorb means that yes, the Elemental Four are indeed slaves to Drakenjo, at least the will of Drakenjo. If they fail him, he will absorb their power, which may be one of the reason for the sickness. And Sylph showed true genuine fear here, not through her hairpin, but through herself, meaning that she truly did dread everything else. Next chapter is called The Sword of Eden, what I've heard. We still don't know where Jin is. Wasn't Jin supposed to be the bodyguard of Sylph? Or is he still standing behind to teach everything else? Either way, Sylph is terrified of losing, unlike the other gang who didn't really show that. But yeah, DJ Zombie, Drakenjo, how he kept himself young all this time, no idea. But it's very likely connected to its alchemy. Give me your thoughts if you have any.